Welcome to the Flivver channel live stream. Tonight we have the usual collection of YouTube hooligans. Randall from the YouTube channel Shed by the Tracks. Randall is an honorary member of Possum Lodge and brings his unique blend of grandpa humor to our show. Randall's incredible home-built speedster, the Prairie Flyer, is a wonder. He claims to have designed it all in CAD, that's cardboard and determination. Rob's enthusiasm for Ford Model Ts and Model As is outshone only by his generosity to others. Rob's family are Model T people going back generations, and he is a wizard at repair and maintenance. Vince from the YouTube channel Baggett Corner. Vince focuses on stationary hit-and-miss engines, and more recently, restoring a fantastic original Ford Model TT truck. There's nothing he can't fix. And I'm Steven. My channel, Flivver channel, focuses on the quirky characteristics of antique cars. I explore the fun and challenge of owning and driving a Model T, and the history of early automobiles. Thanks for joining us tonight. Feel free to comment in the chat. Ask us anything. We monitor the chat and will try to respond to most questions. Hey, welcome everyone.
Hey, Steven.
Hello.
It's that time of the month again for our monthly live stream. And tonight we're blessed with a special guest, Jason from Salt Lake City. Welcome, Jason.
Hey,
Hello, everybody.
Rob couldn't join us tonight, but hopefully the three of us can manage without him as best we can anyway.
Hi,
So welcome, Jason.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so Jason reached out to me after having seen some of our live streams and said that he had some Model T stories. He's fairly new to Model Ts, and we've been talking back and forth and sharing pictures and things, and we're lucky to have him join us tonight. So it's great to have you, and looking forward to learning more about your journey and your new old Model T.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me get things started by asking, have you always been an old car guy, a Model T guy? And when did you get the disease? When did you get your first Model T here? And tell us a little bit about the backstory.
Well, so I kind of spoke to you guys a little bit earlier, just before we started it. I'm not a huge car person, but I have an appreciation for cars and a history. So I like old things and old cars. And years ago, I started watching, kind of looking around for Model Ts and just kind of looking. I didn't even really dive in at all. I just would see them up for sale, or I would, see them around, or you see them in a parade, and I would think about it like that's a really neat car. And then about probably 3 or 4 years ago, I started kind of paying attention to them and thought it would be a neat thing to get into. And then after a little bit, I started watching online for Model Ts that were selling, and eventually I took the plunge. So that's kind of how I got there, just kind of watched. And I knew that I really liked the Model A Roadsters. And then I would look back a little bit further, and I looked for the original Model A, which is that's not a car to come by very easily, the first Model A, Model T. And so in that search, I came across we'll call it an original speedster, one that had been built out in the 20s. And it's probably that particular speedster was probably even older than that. It's probably 16, 17. And I saw that, and I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. And I looked at it, and it looked like quite a project. It wasn't rusty, but it really looked like it needed some work. And I wasn't sure if this was the one. And the year you guys might know, but from the side, if you, it had the really like the 45-degree angle fenders that really come out and then come out flat on top. So a little bit of an earlier makes the car look really, really long. So I'm not sure about what year that is, but when I saw it, I thought, I might be getting in over my head just at first. Now I feel like I should have done it. But so anyway, I kept looking around and I came across this. And when I saw it, when we popped open the hood and I looked inside, it had a canvas and leather sewn together belt for the radiator, and somehow that just sold me. And that plus it's a runabout roadster, and that was the other bit, and it ran, and it was in a place where it just needs some more love, it just needs a little bit of effort. And I thought that was a good jumping off spot, and enough work to tinker and figure things out, and not too crazy. But now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I know what I can do. so that's kind of it. That's kind of how I it actually took me. The car kind of sat on the market for a little while, and I said, if it doesn't sell, I'll buy it. And it took about almost a year, and then I was ready, and I drew down the cash, and I was in it. So
that's good. And you were able to drive it the day you bought it, sort of thing. Like it was drivable.
We tried to start it that day, and it wouldn't start, but he assured me it will start. And so I went. It's interesting, inside this car, in the engine compartment, there is a fuel pump. So it's not just the gravity fed; it has this vacuum fuel pump that's in there. And so I determined, I was like, well, if I fill this canister there that you see on the firewall, that is a vacuum, I'll call it vacuum powered fuel pump. And I wasn't getting any fuel past that. So what I did was I filled it with fuel on the top there. And then after that created enough vacuum or suck out of the tank. As it emptied out into the carburetor, it pulled the gas in, and ever since then it ran fine.
Have you pulled that fuel pump apart, Mace?
No, I did get the book on it. The original, there's lots of information about them. They're pretty bomber. I think the only real issue is making sure that you seal it up so it's airtight,
right,
when you take things out, but it works fine.
So is it an aftermarket accessory from the day, or is it taken from some other brand of car? Because I know like the Dodges all used something similar because they had the fuel tank in the back.
As best I know, it's from then. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this car, this is a 1922, and it wasn't until recently that I started poking around the engine saying, okay, what am I really working with here? And I pulled up the code on the engine, and it's a 1925 engine. So that's where that kind of loosened the chains, I guess, on what I could do to fix it up. It's already, it's not a whole 100% car, even though it looks like it, in the sense that, it came from the factory and this is what's left. It's at some point they swapped that engine out. But as for the pump, even the water pump, it's kind of an aftermarket thing, right? You see there.
Yeah.
It's all period. I guess I would say it's from that period.
Watch your manners, Jason. Roberta Clark is in the chat.
Yeah. Roberta, she had it. Well, I guess technically, I'm the third person to own this car. Third, with title, I guess.
With title, and the original title was back to 1920.
Yeah. So Roberta, she would know for sure. But when the car went to the gentleman that I purchased the car from, it went with the original Ford title.
It did.
Yeah. So
You have photos of that in this mix?
no. So what happened is he went to get it licensed, and they took it, and he thought he was going to get mailed back to them, but they shredded it.
Darn, eh? That sucks.
Yeah.
So
Note to everyone: if you have something like that, get a duplicate title first and have them shred that.
So just backing up, sorry, Jason, because I was
sure.
just kind of affixed here, and I'm looking at this motor engine. You were saying the stamp on the motor that you were saying it matches or does not match the frame stamp, or
there is no frame stamp
frame stamp.
Yeah, I think they came in 20. Didn't the stamp start at 26?
I think that's right. Yeah.
So there's no. I didn't bother looking. If it's 22, that's way. You may be at 25, but I will.
But then it's titled as what?
22.
22. Okay.
And every element in the car says 22, except for that engine.
So that just kind of leads you down the path of, was that engine in the car a 22, and then it was changed out after the original title at some point, which could very well be, I guess, right?
So it was bought by a gentleman in Wyoming, and when he passed away, I just went to his kids, and they went to their kids, and so it was all in one family, and basically was right there in that one area the whole time. So it wasn't until the last couple of years that it moved anywhere,
right?
To the best of my knowledge.
That seems to be a pretty common thing, that the life of a Model T doesn't seem to move a whole lot past 100 miles.
Yeah.
You got to put it in a freight car if you want to take it any further than that.
Throw it on a flat deck and move it away.
Yeah. So I kind of want to. My goal here probably is just try and maintain it. So it's funny, my everyday driver is a 95 Mazda pickup truck, and we have newer cars for my wife, and that's all great and stuff. But that my truck that I drive around all the time, I just keep it going, and I kind of want to take that same mentality with this. Is to just keep it going and fix things as needed. I don't want it to rust any further, so I've kind of looked around and fixed some stuff for that, and it needed upholstery, so I started working towards that. I mean, it's just worn out, so to just go through and do that, I want it to. I think I want it. In this case, I want it to continue to look like an old car.
That seems like a really good plan. I mean, that's the way I, went about it with my truck. I think that's the way Steven's gone. Randall, maybe a slightly different course, but just kind of keep it up, fix the things that need fixing. Don't really try to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and mess with it.
Just make sure it drives well. Get the steering and the suspension and the motor and drivetrain working well so that you can enjoy driving it. But beyond that, the aesthetics, I don't know. The older they look, the better in a way.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's got some interesting characteristics on the apron on the driver's side that it has 3 shotgun holes in it. and I recognize the holes. They're slugs, right?
Yeah.
Shotgun.
You know why that is? It's because it's got a water pump on it. Somebody shot it.
Yeah.
Put it out of its misery.
Some angry Model T guy shot it.
Yeah.
Could be. But yeah, I recognize those holes.
The rust that there is on it, where is that rust on
it? Not too much rust on the car.
Oh, okay. Anything underneath the doors, like in the bottom of the doors?
Nope. There may be. There's only the one door. It may be thin there.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath the seat. When I pulled the tank out, the gas tank, and I pulled, it still had, and we've got video of it, but I went through and I videoed myself dismantling the original. There was a section of original upholstery, and so I was just kind of taking notes for myself.
Yeah.
That there's a layer of burlap and cotton, and this is the tack, and this is the nails, just as a reference. But you can see in the tray there where we kind of put tools and stuff behind the tank.
Yep.
That when I hit that all with a wire wheel, and it was thin, and it kind of cut a few holes in it. But I went through here, and this is after some dust blew in it, so it's looking kind of dusty and dirty again. It was beautiful and new. But yeah, that paint is just me. I hit everything with the wire wheel.
Yeah.
And then cleaned it up, and then put some etching primer where I'd gone through the paint a little bit there, and then finished it up with some just some rattle cans Rust-Oleum. That's all I did.
I've got some pictures of that, but first, what's this lever here?
I was just going to ask that, Stephen.
That is the Ruxel.
Oh, okay. It's an unusual lever. Maybe I don't know what a usual one looks like, but it seems unusual to me. It looks like a Model A parking brake lever.
It could be. I don't know what it is, but it is that, and the Ruxel works, and that handle works. And I've noticed it looking at parts and things that is that is not like what they sell. Like, oh, this is the original.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the shape of that at all. So I was kind of like, what is that there?
Yeah.
Is that a button on the top? Does it do anything, or is it just a plug?
No, it's just it's brass. The thing's solid brass.
Okay.
Neat.
At least
that is cool.
That cap is. Yeah, and then it's attached somehow to that steel. I'm pretty sure maybe the cap is brass. Something on there is brass. I can't remember, and then it might go through. It might be a brass rod. It doesn't spin or anything. It's just solid. But yeah. And this was my first. This is where it all started for me. Was this project here?
We've all seen this. The drip of gasoline coming off. Randall's laughing away. We have all seen this.
Oh yeah.
So you can see that's been brazed, and adjusted and adapted, and I think that original ball at the top there, right up against the tank, I think that's, I don't know what it is. It could be it's from something else, but it should have it could have been the like in the oil cock but it's all been brazed up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like a petcock, but maybe somebody had used not much mechanical sympathy when they're putting a wrench on
it. Yeah. And then there was some brazing that you can see. At some point, and then that whole piece was screwed into the tank. But that's what it looked like when I first got it out, and I was kind of. These are reference shots for me to put it back. Putting those in there takes a little bit of a little persuasion and a little bit of patience with those bands that go around that thing.
Oh yeah.
So I was glad I took pictures to say which end. It's pretty simple to see, but where they mounted up, I didn't know when I brought the tank back if I was going to see the little rub marks where it sat.
Oh right.
And I couldn't really, I don't think so. I just had that as a reference when the tank came back from the radiator shop that boiled it out.
Stephen, Randall, did they all come with the normal fuel valve that comes on the majority of the ones that I see? The ones shaped like a pine cone kind of a deal with the fuel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got a little trap for some debris.
Yeah,
and a petcock and a little bowl drain at the bottom. Yeah, they all had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just used a tractor one from the farm store for mine. That's where I replaced it with.
With a glass bowl, Randall? Or?
Yeah, with a glass bowl.
Yeah, those are nice. I know the original style are available and remanufactured as either brass or steel, depending on the year. And but I've also heard that they all leak, so they all take quite a bit of persuasion and work when you buy one before you can get it to seal up. So if you find an old one, you're probably still better off with that.
Yeah, I haven't had a leak in mine when I put it on there. There's no leak. That's what it looked like. I was going to mention Roberta, who I let her know that we were doing this, and that's why she's here tonight. She knew the original owners of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so she's staying there. It's within 3 miles of where this thing lived its whole life.
That's funny.
And so that's great. And before it came to Utah, and I guess she said something about the what was his name? It was John? Where was that? Just a second here. What did she say? Oh, yeah, John and Nellie. And Nellie, I hope that's correct. Yeah, she says, yeah, he'd have to know John to understand the bullet holes.
He must have lost his temper.
Yeah. That's great. So I've
thing.
selected to leave those bullet holes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People buy stickers to put bullet holes on their new cars, but you have authentic bullet holes.
Yeah, those are
Fixing those holes would be a crime against humanity. Right?
Yeah, here.
Like I should go and get a shotgun and blow some holes in mine just for
Yeah.
There you go.
showing a little authenticity.
It's not the same if you do it yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, I've dropped out again.
Oh.
I need to earn a little more on YouTube so I can get a new camera. There we go.
So what you're seeing there in that shot is that's me, cleaning it up and covering up the wood. It's one thing. It's so, I'm here in the desert, and because it's so warm and stuff, and that around that time of the year, I decided I would hose it out. I've just hosed it all out with water.
Sure.
And it's the only time when I stoked that door that has the tape on it over there. When I did that, that was the only time I've been able to open that door. and I thought, oh, great, it's open now. And I played with it. Everything seemed normal and fine. And then I shut it. I thought, well, it might change shape or something. So I shut it. Now I can't open it again.
Oh, no.
So I'll have to fiddle around with that a little bit. But I haven't forced it. And anytime I do, I feel like I'm going to break it. So
Yeah.
but I know how to get it open. I soak it with water. So
Just explain that to your passenger. Oh, you want to get out? Yeah, here's a bottle of water.
yeah,
Does yours have 2 doors on it?
well, just a single door.
Just think, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed gas pedal. That was an accessory from the day too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have gone without cheating on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been using the hand throttle. Yeah. Well, it's cruise control, so.
Yeah. So yeah, this is that green there. I like that when they put a different color in that spray paint so when you've covered it up with the new black,
Oh, yeah. I see a few little holes on those bead rolled areas there, huh?
Yeah, you can see that pitted rust down there. That's the worst rust on the whole car is that spot.
So the moisture just sits there. It's actually the same as my truck. I've got some of that actually missing, and I was going to cut a new panel and stick one in, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that old upholstery holds that moisture, and it just drips down.
I think you're right.
So,
Looks like all the original wood. I see flat screws. I see square fasteners, stuff like that.
Yeah. The piece of wood for the backrest I pulled out to do this, and I know there's kind of a rule with dissimilar metals, right? You got steel fasteners, but I opted the top of that to put in brass. I hope that doesn't have a negative effect.
Well, it won't in your climate. In our climate, it'd be a disaster. But
well,
we could add more bullet holes. That's all.
Yeah.
But there's three. When I remounted it, I thought, well, it might get wet up here, and I don't have to worry about the rust. And so I put 3 brass screws to hold the top of the wood in. But so I was a little nervous about that, but so far so good.
Very good. Now, what are you doing with the upholstery? You've got new springs, looks like.
Yeah. So I that seat right there, this is funny. This is me figuring out what's going on. that's backrest is original and correct. And then I was looking at this and I was like, okay, let's take it. And I just got that from Snyder's and I thought I was going to pull it out because I was nervous about this. I was like, how good is it? How, authentically made. So I was really impressed.
Yours is in a lot better condition than mine was, Jason, by quite a long shot. I had to re-stretch all my springs and then bind them all back together.
Okay. Well, you can see the curve. In that backrest, it's pretty.
Yeah.
That's people sitting in it all the time, Yeah. And I just wanted to kind of compare, and I got to say it's pretty solid,
Yeah, my friend Russ here just bought a set of springs from Snyder's, and same. I guess Snyder's themselves make these, and they do a really good job.
Yeah. So you can see there that my old one has that little angle on the side, and then the new one is very square.
Oh yeah, it does.
Right. So that's not a Model T seat.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe it is, or if it is, it's from a different year or something's.
Or could it just be bent out like that? Like, from
yeah. And I explained in the video, if I set it into the spot where it's supposed to go, it doesn't really sit down into the little tray that they've made.
Okay. So it's probably from some other car. Yeah.
And so then but the new one slips right in there perfect.
Oh, cool. Great.
Nice.
So yeah, I was surprised. I was like, wow, I hadn't really paid attention, and that's what set me off. I'm like, wow,
Did you have? There was original upholstery on it, though, right, Jason? We're gonna see.
There was a couple of pieces and also a couple of layers, kind of like putting carpet over carpet. And there was only a piece, a portion behind the driver. Was there with its, and this is, and I've moved some, so yeah, you can see that. I went through and looked, just kind of, once the stuff is gone, it's gone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So I just went through and said, okay, what does this really look like? And you can see the bead there around the edges.
Yeah.
And what remains of the original stuff. So I just wanted to kind of take note of it. Because these are things that I think I don't think about. Once it's fixed, it's just fixed and just works.
Well, and once you'll never. It's really hard to find photographs of original interiors that are detailed and high enough resolution to be useful. I've been looking for just a single photograph of what the interior on my 26 was like. How the upholstery was done, where it's tufted, where it's smooth, that sort of thing. And I've been looking for 2 years, and I finally found one picture that's not bad. It's hard to come by. You've got all kinds of people who show you what they've done to their car, but that's not necessarily what it was like on the showroom floor. And feel free to do whatever you like to your car, but I'm curious what it was like on the showroom floor. And trying to find that information is very hard.
Yeah,
so it's great. It's great that you documented it.
Yeah, I did the same thing you did, Jason. That was I documented everything very well and took videos and really good videos of all of that stuff. Not because I ever wanted to return back to it, but I wanted to have a reference to what it actually looked like originally. But at this point, it was so rat-eaten and dusty and filthy. There was no, I wasn't going to be able to use it, but it is nice to know what it originally was, like you said.
Yeah, it's just because you never know. There's all kinds of versions, and so I took note of that, and then I actually later on the video I start peeling it up, and you see there are pieces. There's right here, with this. That's a cardboard. It's just cardboard underneath that as kind of a cover up the seams sort of thing, a little structure.
Yeah. Right.
There's
some sort of woven material underneath that.
Yeah, burlap.
That was factory original. The burlap.
Yep.
They still
cotton,
the cotton tufting.
Yep. On that, that's all that remained. There's a bunch on the backside there.
Yeah.
My seats were full of horsehair.
Oh wow! Yeah. What year's your TT?
The truck is a 20.
We're not really sure.
Really tough to know. 26, somewhere there, 25, 26, somewhere in there. 26 for sure, because I guess, well, the frame is stamped, so I'm going to go with 26 there.
Yeah.
Title
Okay.
is 27.
Yeah. So, yeah, I went through and I saved some of the original tacks just as a reference. I just put them in a little plastic bag and.
Cool little end cap, right?
Yeah, isn't that neat? The metal one that's formed over the end.
Yeah, that's
Now,
neat.
a little trick. My friend Russ just went through remaking that wood top edge. It looks like yours might be salvageable, but after he got all the tacks and screws out of it, he went around and with some white glue and toothpicks and shoved glued toothpicks into every single tack hole, and then knocked them off and gave it a quick sand. And he was able to bring the old wood parts back to really sound condition that way, just by putting in hundreds and hundreds of glued in toothpicks.
Man, he's got patience, huh? Holy
well, you've seen his work. It's it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember the evening when we discussed I can't remember if it was us or it was a video of yours with making the wood, the bows, and with the steaming. I mean, my God,
Yeah,
I had the patience of a saint.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched that, and so as you go further along here, there's a spot in the video where I really look at the profile of the wood, because it was milled and it has a shape to it. It's not just you can see that round curve on the top. But,
yeah.
But at some point, I look at it later. A lot of the wood is fine, but some of it's pretty. There's gotten some bugs in there. Something's kind of eaten through it here and there, and so there might be up on the corner where it wraps around to the back there. That's kind of a weak spot.
It looks like they stuff it with fairly raw cotton as well, right? Because you can see parts of the plant in the cotton.
Yeah, it's straight. It's just straight batting, cotton batting.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. But in that little frieze there, just behind the little arm that's sticking out, see, it looks like a little piece. There's a little wedge of wood.
Oh yeah.
So that there's a front portion of the rail, and then there's the longer portion comes back a little further. There's like a crack there, but on top of that, there's a wedge of wood that just kind of smooths out that transition where from the front to the back on either side of that. It's just a little tiny piece of wood, and even today I keep trying to I don't want it to come off.
Yeah,
nails holding it on and it spins. But it creates that transition from the higher front.
Are you referring to that piece beside that arm that's sticking out to the right of that?
Yeah, there's a thin, it looks like about 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's just a little piece, and later in that clip you can see that. But yeah, it's just kind of like, well, if I can keep it there, I'll try and keep it there for the next layer of upholstery to go back on there. But anyway. The other thing you see in this shot is that there is a wheel,
spare tire holder. Yep.
On the left there,
Yeah, that's just for the rim and tire.
Yeah, is that? Do you guys know? Is that a Model A?
Nope, that's Model T.
It's T. Okay.
And it wasn't normally sold with the car, but a lot of dealers offered it as a when you buy your new car option.
Okay.
It's very handy. It's either there or at the back, and they tended on the American cars to put it here more often than not because there's no door there anyway. But on the Canadian cars, they tended to use the rear mounted spares instead.
I see. Yeah, I kind of wondered if it was, if I guess John had one day just installed it himself, but.
Mm-hmm. And he might have. They were available at the hardware stores anywhere. Yeah.
And it's just mounted to the
yeah,
door.
there's a block of wood in the door. So it looks like a 2x6.
Oh.
It's definitely a rough cut 2x6 piece of wood, and it's about as tall as the door is, and it's just in the door, and it just clamps that through the the exterior.
And so that got mounted. I mean, I'm just trying to go through just a thought process here. That was mounted on the side as opposed to being mounted on the back. Why do you think?
Well, I think, I think maybe Steven's right about, the door. There's not a door there that opens. So.
Right.
Oh, well, and then, let's say it did come later. I know that John at one point took the turtle deck off and used it as a truck.
Oh, okay.
And it hauled coal. And to this day, I can still find little chunks of coal. I've even vacuumed it a few times. And there's remnants of that coal. So if it went there by design, from him, then it
would be in the way. Yeah,
it would have been in the way.
Yeah. And the rear tire mounts are an obstruction when you're trying to get things out of the trunk. They are a nuisance.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Sorry, that's not what I was looking for. One more.
One thing I'll say, this is going back to the very beginning of our conversation. Something that if someone is paying attention and is new to this, so I'm a good year and a lot of study. Like I have just learned and learned before I get to tinkering, right? What I've learned was this kind of in a modern way of looking at Model Ts was that if I said I have a Ford Explorer, and everyone has a pretty good idea what a Ford Explorer looks like, but if I look at a 1994 Explorer and I compare that to today's Explorer, there are a lot of differences, right? And it took me a little while in the very beginning to go, wait, that's a Model T and that's a Model T, right? So my Model T kind of being in the middle there looks, that's different than the brass ones. And the 2627s look a lot like a Model A. And it took me a little bit in the very beginning to go, back when I was looking at a Speedster, to kind of question, what am I looking at? Like what is going on here? Because I had an idea of a perception of what a Model T is, and I expected all of the Model Ts to kind of be the same. And it was weird. It just one day it just kind of dawned on me. Oh, there's like decades of Model T.
Yeah.
They change just like a modern car over time. It's like, ooh, the new 2025 whatever.
I learned the same thing, Jason, and I'd asked those same questions and finally just started posing them with Stephen and Randall most of the time. But and that is that there is an average typical, TT or an average typical Model T or whatever. But there are all these little idiosyncrasies and these little small details that also can change, and not even dependent on the year. It just happens to be almost random some of the time. So
Jason, this picture is my friend's T. He lives in Rochester, New York. You can see the side mount spare here.
Oh yeah,
and that's further back. Like mine's forward of that.
Yeah. But this one, I'm not sure the year, but it's awfully close to what you've got, I think.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the same car.
He drives it all year, as you can see from the snow. That's his daily driver.
I'd like to drive mine around quite a bit, kind of do all the things around town. But so anyway, that's my assessment of what I learned in the beginning was what am I looking at? So people new to it are like, wait, that's a Model T, that's a Model T, that was my introduction, was trying to figure out. So getting a car, you kind of find your spot in time. Where am I in the lifespan of Model Ts?
Right.
And then you kind of go, okay, now I have a set of parts, that work for me. So anyway, that's kind of one of the first of my own little epiphany on what was going on.
Oh yeah, here's the Ruckstol linkage. I can see it there now. Yeah.
And, it's I have yet to go through any of this stuff and really lubricate. I'm sure it probably needs some, and that exhaust is a little cockeyed on that muffler. I don't know if that's normal.
Yeah, and the muffler looks big, but that might just be camera perspective. That might
Yeah, I
not.
think,
That
yeah.
might not be a Model T muffler.
No, I think it's the right muffler.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're stretching it out a little bit on the edge.
yeah,
Yeah, it's got that interesting canister look on the end of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, you can see it's leaking around the
Yeah.
edges.
yeah.
So
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
right.
if that's making it louder or if it's just leaking.
You'd never know. If it fell off, you would know the difference. The 20 horsepower motor. There's no extra power for noise.
Yeah. So yeah, I took these just to kind of. I don't know if you can see it in here. There's a few extra parts. There's a cable and a spring under there somewhere, and I don't see it in the shot. It's probably a little. This is looking forward.
Sorry,
And it
trying to
should be
make it
here on
big
this
here.
right side, but somewhere you can see that curvy fuel line. It's somewhere in there. Oh yeah, on the.
I see
where
something tied
Oh yeah, I see a wire and a piece of wood stuck in
to
there.
a
And
cross member there. and-
yeah, right. That's it. And it's like hooked on there. And if you have to investigate, what is that for? I don't know. So it's kind of interesting. I'm sure it makes sense once you find the other end. I just noticed it. And it's like, what's going on there? And I pull it. It's under tension. It's not just loose.
That's interesting.
And, there's some wiring under there too for, I guess, a tail light of some sort that was on there at some point. But yeah, and then in these shots, you might see that the rear fenders were the guy who had the car before me put on some temporary fender irons that he had just built a couple pieces of steel strapping to hold the fenders up. And I think, to the best I can tell, when they took that turtle deck off, I'm imagining they took those fenders off as well.
What do you think about
Fender
that
iron.
little deck? Do you think that was the original one? Do you think it's a different something from something?
I think it's the original deck.
It's
Yeah,
obviously-
it will be because they didn't sell a pickup in those days. So
Right.
this 2-seater car would have only come with the turtle deck for sure.
yeah. I was just wondering about the fact that it's a different color.
Yeah, I think it hung in a barn.
Oh.
It hasn't seen the same amount of weather.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you can still, it still has paint on there, but you can see this is where they cut, and I've seen this before, where they cut this notch out to allow them to put in a square bed.
Oh, okay.
Right. So,
Pickup conversion. Yep.
yep.
That would
Yeah.
originally follow the outline of the metal originally.
Yes.
Yeah, it was curved normally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, these are all the things I was discovering along the way, and there may be a picture without that turtle deck on it.
No, I didn't find that. Sorry.
That's all right. But yeah, if you look in the bottom of this picture, you see that little piece of metal down.
Yeah.
where-
Yep.
Yeah, that was the solution to kind of hold it up. And I bought some irons. One's straight, the other one's a little bent. I got to find a big vise to see if I can straighten it a little bit. It's just got a little curve to it.
Mhm.
But yeah. So that's some of the stuff I've learned about it. But yeah, that's why it does look a little different. And on the other side, there's where the apron meets the fender, there's a hole it's about, I don't know, about the size of your hand.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure. It looks torn out. It's not rusted out, or it was cut out, or something. Or something went through something made a hole and then it was trimmed out a little bit. But
What's
Yeah.
nice is it doesn't cause any real detriment to value. I don't think it's just really interesting.
Yeah. It adds so much curiosity.
Yeah.
That's cool. I did note, what was this all about, Jason? I know this is your brakes with the cover off and your axle
Yeah.
seals.
So this is just me poking around the very first time, just looking at it. And I watched a bunch of videos online and kind of like, okay, everyone's going through the same process to tear this apart. And I knew this is me on discovery of why this particular wheel wobbles.
Right.
And when I took it off and started playing around with it, I noticed that on the drum that's mounted to the wheel, I noticed that it was missing a bolt, and a couple of the nuts were really loose. So I thought, well, it could just be the wheel, just it's out of round,
Yep.
or I've got a bent axle. And when I grab that axle and try to move it around a little bit, it doesn't really move.
Oh.
And this side doesn't really have any oil coming out of it. Yeah, there is some wobble.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what mine looks like, except that my hub does exactly the same move as the wheel, so I know it's my bent axle, whereas this hub stays nice and straight, even though the wheel's doing all the wobbling. So I think this is definitely a wheel wobble problem.
That's all repairable.
Looks like the hub is, I mean, you could put an indicator against it and find out, but it looks pretty straight, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think it's all right.
Yeah. So,
but this is where things get a little interesting, because the very first thing I noticed when I saw the photo of Jason's car was this shot. And if you look a little closer, you'll see those are not Model T wheels.
Yeah, they are not. And I was thinking at first that they were Model TT wheels, but I started watching videos. I watched all the your
mine, Jason.
Yeah. I watched yours, and I got around to, I was paying attention to the wheels, and I realized the lugs the lugs weren't the same as yours either.
No,
so
they're not. Those clamps are different.
You can see that that's a Model T hub bolted to a
some other wheel.
Yeah, and I thought maybe it's a Nash, maybe it comes out of an Oldsmobile or something.
It's something else. It's got five bolts on the removable split rim. The T's are 4. TT is how many? Do you remember?
Oh,
Vince?
boy, I don't remember now.
We'll check your videos later.
At around the hub, so where you see 2, 4, 6 rivets.
Yeah.
It looks originally it was on a wider diameter hub.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
the hub was bigger, and those spokes are heavier than a Model T spoke.
Right.
So
much heavier.
I think he was hauling coal, so he probably bulked this thing up a bit. Those balloon tires are 4 3/4.
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with that at all. It just like we just said. I mean, it just adds to the interest.
Yeah,
it kind of makes it look a little bit like mine with the fat tires on it, like it's been hot rodded.
Yep. And this is the only way to fit that. There was for some reason, I'm going to play around with this, but the valve stem wouldn't go through straight. I'm not sure. As what I was told, there was an issue with it, and they were saying, well, the only way to put air in it is to take it off. You can set it back in the wheel.
That's something funny going on there. Again, probably because that wheel's a bit mismatched with.
I know I had to mess with mine a lot with the spreader to get that valve to come out straight. I actually had to start with everything misaligned so that when I pushed it all back in place, it was aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hefty wheels. They're from something heavier.
Oh yeah! Wow, are they ever?
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought I might send this wheel somewhere to see if I could get it trued up.
I'm wondering if those are Dodge wheels.
Yeah, I would have to do a bunch. I've got tons of photos. I can look. I just haven't made side by side comparison of your wheel shot to the Dodge photos I've got to see if it looks like a matchup, but it sure could be.
You have lots of photos from Harry's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've got more videos coming, that kind of historical context, trying to identify old cars in photos. So I've been cataloging, so I can probably get 2 or 3 good clear side shots of each of the typical cars of the era now. Try and match those up.
Yeah, I've paid attention to different cars, and I came across an Oldsmobile, and I thought, well, that's pretty close. And I saw a Nashville, that's pretty close, but But
What
nothing.
size? What size were those tires? I was just
They are 20. I think they're
20.
Yeah.
So that is definitely weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big
The
tire.
truck tire, yeah, or a big car tire, yeah.
So, but still
Well, with those big tires, you'll find you can run really low air pressure, and the car will ride a lot better.
yeah,
You'll be glad of them.
without the bumps a little bit.
Mhm.
This is me. I went around trying to collect up some correct wheels.
Oh, okay.
And-
This is some of your Model T wheels.
Yeah, so I think I've got 8 or 10 now,
Oh, yeah.
and trying to determine all the sets to be the same because there's
Mhm.
variations.
Yeah, there are, and there were a number of different manufacturers of the wheels.
Yeah.
Different standards for those 4 bolts, how they attach to the rim, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's been a little bit of an education, and it's with a little work. I've managed to get. I think I have a full set. I have to check again that really work well together because I noticed on some if you put a clincher rim onto the wheel, there was a little bit of an air gap between the wheel and the rim.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not good.
Rather than just touching, they didn't really touch. They fit. I mean, you slip them together, but some slip together like a glove, and others just are around it. So that's just I just noticed that they are not all the same. So once you have a nice set, keep your set.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that has been a thing. But yeah, it's been a very quick journey over the past year.
Now, what kind of driving do you like to do? Is this like ice cream on Sundays, or do you go on tours? You planning to go camping? What do you got in mind for the car?
I kind of want to do kind of an everyday thing, and
Drive it to
definitely in the
work sort of
summer.
thing.
Yeah, just we're gonna go to the grocery store or something.
Are you gonna make a top for it, or is it always gonna be open?
Yeah, I'll probably get a top for it. I'll probably have the top down a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I never run with the top up unless I have to. It's so much noisier with the top up. It's unbelievable.
Really?
That's the first thing we noticed is, oh my God, it's loud.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I noticed. So there's other work that's got to be done. That engine is leaking. I see coolant coming out of the head a little bit. I might be able to clamp down that gasket a little bit. But it like I said, it drives, and the wheel is the only thing that it's kind of held me back. So while that wheel is being solved, I've kind of delved into the fuel system to see if I could, fuel system.
Sounds sophisticated.
running a new fuel line that's just a straight shot, and experimenting with taking that pump out of there and back in, and just to goof around with it to see how that.
I did check on your behalf. You're only an hour and a half from the salt flats, so you could always go do a test.
Yeah, that's right.
Top speed. There you go.
Yeah. The salt flats.
We know what the top speed is already. You don't have to go. It's not very fast.
Yeah. It's funny. I was driving around the neighborhood, and just it's great. Where I'm at, it's pretty flat. I'm down in the valley, and I don't have to deal with a lot of hills. So I was able to really kind of get used to driving it. Having driven a tractor quite a bit, it's kind of that ballpark. And I think anyone that drives like a forklift or a tractor or anything, they're used to doing different things other than just driving a regular car.
That's right.
They can probably catch on a little faster. It's not complete muscle memory. So yeah, but after seeing Randall's car, I came across a chassis. So I might have to make a speedster.
Once it starts, they're like rabbits. They just
So I just thought, running around without fenders on looks kind of fun.
I recommend it. I highly recommend it. I like to see other people suffer.
Yeah. kind of
And think of all the extra speed you'll get. I mean, that's
yeah, well, that's a little bit liberating to just kind of like, I'm going to make this my own little rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very
I
cool.
was thinking the same thing too when I saw Randall. I was like, something I should do actually.
Yeah, like Bruce is doing that, but with his Lincoln, man, that's going to be
Yeah.
something.
That's gonna be pretty cool.
That's going to be awesome.
So long too. Oh my god, it's going to be crazy.
Does that have like a 8 or 12 in it? Does it have like a really
Eight.
big?
8? Yeah, it's a big engine. It's like physically enormous engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have not started it yet? It has not fired up?
Oh,
Or you have
no.
fired it?
Oh yeah, I've driven it.
Oh, you have driven it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, I've driven it.
What was the
And,
process there? So when you got it, it wasn't running.
No,
So-
well, it's just that day I got it back here. I got it off the trailer, and the following morning I couldn't wait around. I had to see what I could do. So I started looking around at it, and I thought, well, I think the problem is it's just not sucking fuel from the tank.
Yeah.
So filling that vacuum canister up with fuel
Mm.
would draw it and so it's gravity. It's basically a siphon at that point, but once it got started, it would pump that fuel, and it did fine. So I just had to.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
that pump just lifts the fuel to a level in the tank and then it just overflows and falls into the bowl, or it actually puts fuel pressure into the bowl of the carburetor?
I put a little fuel pressure. It's using vacuum from the intake manifold
Right.
Yeah.
and that draw.
Go
I
ahead.
was wondering if it did that, Stephen, and then maybe there was a shut off there at some point where it gets to a certain point in that tank and then it just overflows into the carburetor to avoid pushing fuel out of the carburetor, out of the bowl of the carburetor, and like pushing fuel past the needle and seat, in other words.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it's gravity from the vacuum canister to the carburetor, just the same level of gravity that I have in my 26 from the cow tank down to the carburetor.
Yeah,
I imagine that's the truth. Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's all a trick, and once you have a quart of gas,
that's all you need.
You can make it up the hill no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but it does work, and that's what that morning I just was like, all right, let's get this thing going, and start it up. I can't hand crank it. I can't get it to start that way.
Yeah, mine struggle. I've never got mine to start hand cranking either when it's cold. I've done it when it's hot, but I don't know. It's just too draggy or something.
Yeah, I don't know if that is like a magneto thing or I don't know.
Is there a battery in that car? Must be. You've got electric start. So yeah. Okay.
Jack up one of the wheels and it'll start.
Yeah, that helps.
Jack up one of the back wheels and it'll start.
It's a lot easier to crank over then.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can even start it in high gear that way and use the wheel's inertia to kind of it's like an extra heavy flywheel then.
Right.
Which is handy when you're crank starting.
Yeah,
I'm told.
Mine doesn't have a starter on it, so I got no other choice.
Well, you kickstart yours, but that comes from your motorcycle background.
They only put the starters on the ladies' models.
Yeah. Well, it's that the hand crank. It's funny because on the Spark Advance when I set that, I kind of wondered where's a good spot. So I talked to the guy who I bought it from and said, where do you usually have it? And he said, he starts at flat across. I thought, well, that's pretty far down.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It all depends how the linkage is bent up, though. I mean, one person's flat across could be another person's 11 o'clock. Like you just, you don't know.
Right. There's you would investigate that is to look at number one and look down there and see where the piston is, right? So.
Yeah.
Trust me, if you don't have that set right, it's going to let you know right away.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was concerned with that. So it was funny. I decided I wasn't going to. I went with his suggestion, and with the starter, it started right up. but I started to play around with it, and then I thought, well, I wonder how much kickback that's gonna have if I do it wrong. And so I advanced the starter on a when I was pulling the string on a weed whacker. I just and
that kind of
yeah,
hurt.
that yanked out of my hand. And I said, no, I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not going to do that with.
It's like that's enough. That little 2-cycle engine that's a pretty good yank on the hand. So
Yeah.
It's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, if they're retarded enough, they're a pussycat to get going. There's no problem at all.
yeah, well, yeah, I've tried it, and I've just been aware of where my hand is on the crank and just being careful until I know what this engine's going to do, and it's just to no avail. Just I go and go and go. But if I turn around and just go over to the starter, it'll start up.
Sounds like mine. I bet you something's draggy through the transmission. So, like Randall says, if you do want to crank start it, jack one of the rear wheels. It'll make a big difference.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna play with it. Yeah. So all through winter, I've just been collecting up parts.
That's what we do. Yeah.
So you got that? You picked that up in what month of last year?
May.
May. So you've had a whole summer with it then.
Yeah. And it was just a friend in the neighborhood said, hey, one of your wheels is kind of wobbly. Really?
Only one? That's my answer. Only one? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So and I thought, well, I don't want, I went around and checked everything, and it's pretty solid. But then when I got home and I jacked it up and was playing around with it, I saw that it was missing a bolt, and I went and I got some replacements, stuck them on there, but tightening it down did not straighten it really.
Mm-hmm.
Just I thought, well, maybe if I just tighten it, it'll come back, but it didn't. So
back to those wheels, those could be Model T wheels, because there was a booming business of aftermarket wheels for those things, and they could be something, just a heavier duty wheel you could get later on and put on there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be. I think at this point, I have no idea. There's so many cars to guess from. Mm-hmm. And
I think, I started trying to look into how many aftermarket companies there was for Model Ts. And what I realized was there were more aftermarket companies for Model Ts than there are for any other vehicle.
Yeah. When you're looking for those rims for the balloon tires, you have to be kind of careful what you're looking at, or you'll end up with a 5-holer, and it's of no use to you because all your rims are 4 holes.
Okay. Well, yeah. There was another thing that I discovered. So, the notion of that point in time, some of those rims are Kelsey rims, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's manufacturer. And then there's another company, I can't think of the name, Shaw or something. But was it Shaw? I don't know. But the other two names. So at some point, those two companies merged, and then they became Kelsey and somebody, or somebody and Kelsey. And some people refer to them as one thing, and then some of them are just Kelsey or just the other.
Sure.
And that point in time of where, when it's a whole nother story, the Model T is one thing, but now it's like, okay, this company manufactured wheels for cars, and then they merged, and that point in time is a good reference when you start figuring things out.
It is. I found similar things with antique engines the same way, Jason. That was, this company became this company, merged with that company. They made something that was very similar to the other company, but it's slightly different. And then, or this company bought the patents of another company and started using the parts from another company, and it was just an absolute tough to track it all down and figure it all out. Really tough. And then this company would supply engines to as a jobber, basically, to 60 other, like to a McLeod's, or like to a Home Depot, to a Rona, to all of these other places, and all of those had a slight little difference as well, but overwhelmingly they were this other company that made the castings and stuff. So I mean, you get into all these things. It's like, wow, where do you begin? You have to study it for so many years to become. I mean, not an expert, but just
And
become,
with Model Ts, you also have to deal with the actual assembly line of the things, because the old joke is there was 15 million Model Ts and no two of them were the same.
yeah, right.
Because if that T was coming down the line and you needed a door handle and you were building 25s and all you had was 23 door handles, it went on the car.
Yeah.
Or if you had handles from a 26, they went on the car. Whatever was in the box went on the car.
Yeah.
Run
Yeah,
out that long
so
part.
when people say that it doesn't belong on there, you're like, well,
Yeah.
it is on there.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are the people that are absolutely sure in their ignorance.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the whole thing has been kind of an education. Vince, let me ask you really quick. This got off the topic, but what did people use those engines for? Those little, what they were just, I need something to turn something, and you just.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to ask me what I used to shave my head.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
It's by Remington, but what they use for it? Well pumps, dairy pumps, running line shafts, running. Oh my God!
Washing machines.
Washing machines. Yep.
Churn butter.
Absolutely anything that's an electric motor
Today, would have been a gas motor then, right?
Like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just they are they're neat, and people. It's funny. People really love those things, and I see them everywhere. I'm like, what would I do with that?
You'd mount it on the back of your T, just like a showpiece.
Like that. What I'm going to do come spring, I got 3 or 4 I'm going to stick on the back of my truck. So,
yeah. You got to drive down the road with them all running. That's what would be interesting.
Yeah. I'd probably go backwards, and that was momentum would pull me off the road.
Inertia.
Yeah. The inertia.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah. So that's
thanks for joining us, Jason. That was awesome. Really interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
And hopefully we can have you back in a few months and you can give us an update on things.
Sure.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I look forward to that. It's good. It's good to kind of kick around ideas and hear explanations and things.
Yeah, and when you get back to your research, you'll realize that everything we told you here tonight was wrong. But but you feel good about it now. So
yeah. I'm pretty positive.
We look forward to your 100-point restoration in 6 months.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and you should drive it out here and stop by sometime.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a trip.
Right
on. It's funny. I heard someone, I wouldn't call it a complaint, but they would say, people didn't drive those Model Ts long distances. I'm like, I don't know. I think they kind of did whatever they needed to do.
What same thing you do now. Yeah.
There's a couple of old Okies that would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they are fun to actually drive for a long time. I had never had that experience till I went on that one tour this summer, and driving it all day for 3 days was really fun. Really fun.
I remember you saying how much you enjoyed driving through the rain.
Yeah, and I was in the rain was perfectly fine. I was shocked at how comfortable that was. Now it wasn't a cold day, thank God. So
I think that might have had something to do with your rain curtains that you had.
They worked well. Yeah. That was a successful bodge job. That was.
But they were clear. You could see through them.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So I've got them in the car now. I can pull them out if I'm ever out there and things turn ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. Did they make back then? Did they make some kind of?
Not Ford, but aftermarket companies sold them. Yeah. Or grandma sewed them up for you if you wanted to go that way too. If you look at some of the photos of what people had for side curtains, oh my God, some of them were my homemade. The night before side curtains were incredibly sophisticated compared to some of the ones that grandma used to stitch together for people. Oh gosh.
I also noticed that people just let it rain into the car.
Yeah, yeah, very common. And they just wore clothes because they were driving open buggies prior, and you let it rain into the buggy, right? Like you didn't think anything of it.
No.
Yeah, it makes me think about that pitted floor in the back of the underneath that
Yeah,
seat.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you don't want to seal up the floorboards either, like they need to have a gap because the water's got to go
Let that water
somewhere.
out.
Yeah, and the heat in. Let me tell you, when you're driving it in the winter,
What did they make them out of, Stephen? Just canvas? I mean, that they
it was canvas, yeah, and most of them didn't have clear windows. They just had cutouts because they didn't have plastics then, right? What was that material? They had something that's like our clear plastic, but it's different, and it ages really fast. It goes yellow and brittle. I can't remember the name of that stuff.
I mean, they didn't invent plastic till like 1910, somewhere in there. But I mean, to get advanced enough to be able to make clear plastic, that had to have been 50s, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Cellophane, or what was it called? I don't know. Anyway, they weren't great. Yeah.
What were the rear windows made out of?
Yeah, that'd be the same thing. Yeah, I wonder what that was, that stuff. Somebody online is going to tell isinglass, says Russell McLean, and he knows his stuff.
Isinglass. I'm gonna write that down.
But I used clear vinyl, and it worked really well, and we'll see how many years it stays clear, but so far so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you can buy that in so many iterations now. I buy 100-foot rolls of it. 500-foot rolls of it for freezer and fridge curtains.
Okay, yeah.
Varying widths, but I mean, you can buy sheets of it. So
yeah.
And it lasts forever.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Right on. Well, look.
That's just an hour. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us tonight, and stay in touch.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to talking to you here again soon sometime.
Yeah,
Jason.
it was great sharing. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run the outro credits here, and we'll see everyone in a month's time.
Great.
Tomorrow night.
See ya. Oh yeah, and let's not forget. That's right. Shed by the Tracks tomorrow night.
It is Fridays tomorrow night.
That's right.
We got through this hour without any shameless plugs, which is really
well, except for Randall with his merch in the background there.
for everybody wearing
All right, guys. Good night. Guys. Yeah.
Good night, Steve.
See ya.
Thanks to my guests tonight, Randall, Rob, and Vince. Couldn't do it without you guys. Randall, thanks for the music that you made for the show. And thanks to the viewers who tuned in to listen to us old car guys rambling on about old car stuff. We really appreciate it. Good night.